Hey everyone, so today we're reacting to a video by Poetic, titled What They Found in David Phone Horrified Everyone in the Courtroom. I've seen this story floating around. I never got the full details of it, but I know he got arrested recently, but let's check this out.
What prosecutors revealed they found in David's phone at his court date today made everybody in the room stomach turn. It was horrifying. This degenerate freak really murdered that little girl and thought he was never going to get caught. He thought he committed the perfect crime. He thought, there's no evidence. He cleaned up his tracks good enough. He thought they was never going to find out. He was never going to get arrested. And that's evident by how he was moving. Celeste was murdered, according to officials, back in April of 2025. I think she was murdered much longer before then, but if we're going with the official timeline, she was murdered back in April. She wasn't discovered dead until September. He had about 6 months to clean up his tracks, and he thought he did a good enough job. He wasn't officially charged with anything until April of 2026. That means that's the entire year since he murdered Celeste. Now, he knew he was under investigation since September. That means
But I
he knew.
think I don't know if they arrested him as a suspect, but I don't know if he's being charged for it yet. I think they're going through the process, but he most likely is the suspect because the car belonged to him. So I would assume that there's nobody else that they're gonna find. Because honestly, I think it probably I don't know if it was him, but I mean everything is pointing towards him. But I'm
He was
wondering
under
what they found,
investigation for about 6 months. But,
like
his
videos of the
arrogance didn't
murder.
really allow him to think that he was going to get caught, because when he was eventually arrested, this dude has so much evidence on his phone, not of what he
Oh,
did to Celeste, but of
oh,
other things that you would think that if somebody knew or had expectation they was going to get arrested for something this horrific and knew their phone was going to be a pivotal part of this investigation, that they would at least clean up their phone. But this dude was so arrogant and so
yeah.
cocky, he didn't even bother to even touch or erase his phone or erase illegal things from his phone.
A hearing just wrapped up for singer David in his first-degree murder case.
The prosecution revealed details about disturbing digital evidence. Let's get to CBS LA's Rick Montanez
But if
with
it's not
what we
about
learned in court today.
her, then
Rick,
what
what
are
are
we
you
talking about?
hearing?
Amy, Chris, the hearing just wrapped up within the half hour here, and cameras were not allowed in court, but I can tell you that the defendant, David Burke, was in court today in shackles and wearing that orange jumpsuit. The biggest new piece of evidence revealed, prosecutors say a significant amount of child found on Burke's cell phone. We also want to point out that this all happens one day after the medical examiner's
That
report
is
became public.
wild.
That is the report on the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The report says, or I should say, the family of Rivas Hernandez is absolutely devastated to learn the gruesome details contained in that write-up. That's according to a family statement. So this report says the 14-year-old girl died of sharp force trauma, but the autopsy was difficult because of the severe decomposition of her dismembered body when it was found in the singer's abandoned Tesla last September. Officials.
And this is the thing, you never know what anybody's what the in the back of their mind is, because I'm pretty sure he has fans and stuff. Like even I think I heard one of the song that made him famous, and people had it on their Instagram a lot. That's where I know him from, David. That's about it. Other than that, I didn't have not followed his music at all. Um, but yeah, that is wild. So that gives them even more
Say she
everything that he
died
did this
5
type of
months
stuff.
earlier
Because
in
imagine,
April of last year. Burke, the suspect known by his stage name David, was arrested last Thursday. On Monday, he pled not guilty to the capital murder charges. We spoke with a former federal prosecutor just a short time ago here on CBS LA Mornings about this new evidence revealed in today's hearing and the
that's
fact that
crazy.
David's phone, according to prosecutors,
That's
contains
wild.
child.
And obviously, we don't know if it's Celeste Rivas's images and videos or something else, but that is a significant offense. Obviously,
Yeah.
it helps prosecutors prove the sex crimes, the lewd and lascivious, Penal Code Section 288, but it's also a separate crime in and of itself. And it's certainly
Yeah.
the possibility that the feds even step into this case because they typically will prosecute these types of child cases.
They
That's
described
wild.
it as a phone full of child porn. Now, am I surprised that this weirdo who's currently on trial for engaging in inappropriate activities with a 14-year-old girl and then murdering her because she was going to reveal it to the world, am I shocked that that person has a phone full of child porn, have gigabytes of child porn? I'm not
Yeah.
surprised at all, not one bit. right? Not one bit. I feel like what's even more surprising is that it wasn't deleted or it wasn't gone.
That's the
He
thing.
really thought
Like,
he was safe. Like, he really thought they was never coming for him. There's no evidence more clear that he thought he was never going to get caught and he was Teflon Don than his neighbors complaining that he was doing too much partying. And this was happening during the investigation. Like,
and that's the thing. If you're doing something like this, you really usually want to stay low. I know he's like a celebrity-ish or whatever, but you would usually want to stay low. And something like this, especially you want to stay low, I would think you would want to stay low, but that doesn't make any sense. That really doesn't make any sense to why you would not have, why would you have that on your phone? Knowing that you are like a suspect in Celeste's murder and death, and like why would you even have that on your phone in the first place? You're just giving him more fuel. But I'm glad they caught this guy.
his body was
'Cause
found,
what the
they
hell?
went to a grand jury. They was like interviewing people, trying to get a murder charge on him. And he was at his hideout home in the Hollywood Hills partying and having a good old time while they investigating this little girl's murder.
Then today, NBC4 Investigates obtained surveillance video that appears to show the defense attorney near the police scene minutes later. This afternoon, Blair Burke returned to the
Man, you know
home
he
where
did it.
police arrested the singer
She
and
know she
made
did,
no
he did.
comments as
She know he
left.
did it.
One neighbor actually
I can never
told me
be a
that
lawyer.
he's relieved that there was an arrest because he said that there have often been parties at this home. I asked if he's heard parties here recently.
That's
He
so
said
horrible.
it's an ongoing problem. Either way, on Monday, we're expected to get our first look at David as he's expected in court in person in downtown Los Angeles.
I'm more
That is
interested in knowing who the clout whores
That
and
is
monsters were that
crazy,
were still hanging
man.
out and partying with this dude, because he can't party with himself. If there were parties, there were
Yeah.
other people there. Who were the people that was still comfortable partying with this dude?
I mean, they probably didn't know.
Like, he was under investigation for what he did to Celeste.
They probably
Like,
took his
even
word
if
for
you
it.
want to say, hey, man, I didn't know that he actually murdered her. I thought it was all lies. But you knew he was still having relations with this little girl. And you were still
That's
comfortable
true.
partying. The only people
That is
who I
true.
see really comfortable partying with someone like David are people who believe they are like David, or people who have similar interests or secrets like David, which is why I believe, man, even if we can't prove that anybody at that party actually did something, man, they need to be under investigation. Like, they need to be put on a registry, man. David friends. We need to know who his friends were so people can stay away from them, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's not like they was partying with him before her body got discovered. No, right? These were parties that started happening after David came back to LA after going to Texas briefly to hide out. This was in the middle of the investigation. There needs to be a list of names that are part of David's entourage and his network of people, because I'm not buying David is doing all these things alone. The same way they try to get us to buy that he murdered Celeste by himself, that Celeste came over to his house on, I think, April 23rd or 24th, and he murdered her, and then she was never to be seen again, and he's the one who did all of this by himself. I'm not buying that, bruh. Especially after I seen the autopsy report and found out exactly what happened. I don't think David was able to do this himself, then hop on a plane the next day to go and party and have an album roll out and start his tour, and nobody was there to help him either hide his body, chop up this body, dismember this body, and hide it for him. I don't think David, who was on an active tour, was actively hiding and moving Celeste's body all across
That
Los
makes
Angeles
sense.
County, bruh.
Just
That makes
received
sense.
the autopsy report from the medical examiner in Celeste Rivas's death, for which David is now charged with her murder. And there are some interesting
Okay,
things,
so
and we
it's
talked about this before,
charged
that we knew
murder.
that the coroner had ruled this, the medical examiner ruled this a homicide, but we didn't know the cause of death. And the DA said they were stabbed, there was some kind of sharp
instrument was used.
Now we know, and what they're saying is there were two wounds in particular, and that they believe, and they use the word may, and the word may is going to be really important, which we'll talk about, that they may be penetrating wounds, which would not be wounds
to
and dismember a body.
Right,
Yeah,
because of where they are, they believe, is I think the main, and also
And the way they
the
describe
wound
it is
itself.
they describe two penetrating wounds, one on the abdomen and one on the chest. And they describe them as, they tell you the depth and the length of these, and they say they have smooth edges. Indication seems to me that some sort of knife was plunged into her,
That's what they
and it
were
left
suggesting.
smooth
The key
edges.
is the length of the wounds. One is 3/4 of an inch, one is 9/16. So this size wound as the penetrative wound. These are
Which
not,
is an indication of the length of the blade.
and
It's
also a
width of
blade
the
that could not dismember a body, right? This would not be the same instrument used to dismember the body.
Now, the body was dismembered. They describe all that in detail, but those types of cuts to take the body apart would be different than
Does
knife
the
cuts.
report say anything about the dismemberment or what they believe was used?
They don't say what
No,
was
it does
used.
describe it
They
in a
don't say
lot
what
of
was used,
detail,
but
the pieces.
it's gruesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna stop it right there. That is wild. That is really, really, really alarming because you don't. This again, you don't know what people are doing behind the scenes. Because I initially when I think I heard a story, I didn't think he probably might have did it, but I was like, okay, you put all the stuff together, he probably did. I know it's still going through the trials and everything, but all the things pointing to him, especially with the stuff they found on his phone. But yeah, guys, I'll put the link down below if you want to watch the full video from Poetic. But yeah, guys, if you like, just remember to like and subscribe, and I will catch you later. Take care.